Hello, I'm Heidi Cooper. Welcome to Exploring Christianity, A Journey of Faith. I can't believe it's been almost 2 years since my last video, which ceased shortly after the COVID pandemic started, since in-person filming wasn't an option and my attempts at recording and editing on my own, without the amazing partnership of Colin McDonald, were not successful. When the pandemic first started, I spent a bunch of time taking online Christian classes. In the first half a year or so, I completed about 7 different classes, many of which took about a month each. Prior to the pandemic, I never seemed to find the time, and I reveled in the opportunity to strengthen my walk. So, after 2 years of the pandemic, I should be able to tell you in this first video about the profound growth I've experienced during the pandemic, how much more spiritual I've become, how my Christian walk has deepened as has my relationship with God. Except it hasn't. Or I should share about the great volunteer work I've been doing and how many people I have helped during the pandemic. Except I didn't. While I started out strong, spending additional time with God, it didn't last. If anything, recently I've spent less time doing Christian activities than I did before the pandemic. And it's not that I haven't been able to make time. I've spent plenty of time on a number of other new activities during the pandemic, like gardening and landscaping. I probably spent more time doing scratch cooking in the past 2 years than I have previously in my entire adult life. So, if time wasn't the problem, what was? Frankly, I've been beating myself up a bit about why I haven't grown more, why I haven't spent more time focused on God. After all, this has been the perfect opportunity for spiritual growth, so why wasn't I doing the right things to grow? Then a friend of mine made a comparison of the pandemic to the years the Israelites spent wandering in the desert. Now, my first somewhat panicky reaction was, please, please, please don't let this last for 40 years. Seriously, please. My next reaction was to realize that I've been wandering in the desert, but this doesn't mean that I'm not with God, and it doesn't mean that I'm not growing. While the Israelites were wandering, God was living right among them and was spending the wandering time preparing them for what was coming next. Similarly, we are all in a state of transition between what was before the pandemic and what will be after the pandemic. And this transition will take as much time as it needs to take. Maybe some of us are transitioning in other ways as well and just don't see yet what's coming next. It occurs to me that we often don't realize we're entering into a time of transition until the transition is started, or maybe even ended. And in the meantime, we are growing and evolving. We may not be able to see where we're growing and evolving, but that doesn't mean that it isn't happening below the surface. We can trust that God loves us just as we are right now, and loves us too much to leave us this way. We may be growing just as the way God intends, and it may be happening at exactly the speed God intends. Looking back at the videos from before the pandemic, I realized that one of the main things I was focusing on was slowing down. That I'd seen how my constant feeling of hurry was an obstacle to my Christian growth. That it's very hard to feel the peace of Jesus when scurrying around from one thing to another. So maybe I didn't fail at being a good Christian during the pandemic. Maybe I needed this time of slowly wandering in the desert to learn to find peace in the between times. As it says in Ecclesiastes 3:1, there's a season for everything and a time for every matter under the heavens. When you leave a field fallow for a season, during which time nothing is grown, it produces a much higher crop yield when it is planted. Beneath the surface, the soil is becoming healthier and stronger to support the next season of growth. Similarly, I think it's normal to have times in our Christian growth where it appears on the surface that we're not growing. We may need time just to notice and appreciate the small blessings that happen every day, to embrace being and not just doing, to experience times of simple peace. Maybe learning to do less was exactly the stuff I needed to be doing during this season. While we need to make sure we return to our Christian disciplines and practices when the season changes, we should embrace the times of rest as well as the times of growth and obvious change. Thank you for letting me share these musings with you. I look forward to continuing to walk on our Christian journey together. I hope the past 2 years have been a time of learning and growth for you, even if you can't see it yet.